Hello everybody, today I wanted to talk about getting started in Adobe Premiere and show you 5 features that are important but you might miss in your first few times running the program. So to get started, the audio track mixer. This is not actually shown by default. You can find it in Window by going to Audio Track Mixer and then just clicking here to show it, but normally what you would see in the top left over here is the audio clip mixer. Now what the audio track mixer actually allows you to do that's different is instead of just seeing the different audio levels on your audio tracks, you can actually use the audio track mixer to record audio. Now in order to do this, you have to have a microphone hooked up to your computer, and you would go to Edit, Preferences, Audio Hardware, ASIO Settings, and then under Input you would select a microphone, hit OK, and then you're able to take one of your audio tracks, enable it for recording, hit record down here, find the time you want to record in your timeline, and then hit this play button here. And when you do that, it's going to start recording audio and immediately playing it back to your audio output devices. So when you're recording audio like this, unless you have headphones on, you probably want to actually mute your speakers, because if it's coming out of your speakers and going back into your microphone, it's going to cause a lot of feedback. So let's go ahead and show this right here. It's just recording the audio as I talk it, and the second I hit stop, it's going to appear as a audio clip exactly on the track it was on. Now to note, it does overwrite everything it runs into on the audio track, so make sure you have an empty space there so you don't actually accidentally overwrite something you don't want to. Okay, next up, video transitions. Now you can do the most absolute basic transition. Let's get like a title here or something like that. Now this title, we'll talk about titles in a second. And you could get a default transition by right-clicking between the lines and hitting Apply Default Transition. That'll give you just a standard fade, and let's actually make it a title where we can see it. So let's show this fade effect. It's very, very simple, and it works fine for most cases. However, Adobe Premiere is much more powerful than that. If you actually want to get into video effects or video transitions, or possibly audio effects or transitions, you got to hit the effects tab down here in the bottom left hand corner, which is where you're going to see the project files too. From here you can scroll down, find the video transitions you want. Now the ones I really like to use, aside from a default fade, are dip to black, which I'll show you right here. It's very good if the two clips don't match up well, because it just goes to black and then it comes back in, and it doesn't matter if the two clips are completely different than each other, because they're not directly transitioning into each other. And the cube spin, which you can find under 3D motion, it's a pretty cool effect, if I'm totally honest, but they have a whole lot more there. And you can also play around with audio effects and different audio transitions. It's really good to know about if you're going to become serious about using Adobe Premiere. Now next, as I mentioned before, you can actually do titles within Adobe Premiere, as pretty much all video editors. There's nothing too special about that. You just go up to title, new title, it's default still. But what people may kind of overlook initially, although it's right there on the screen, it's not just for creating text titles. Like here, I'll just type in text and assign it a visible default style down here, and we can of course increase the size, let's say 200. It's not that you can't, you can use it for text titles, that's fine, and that's probably what you'll use it half the time for. But you can also use it for shapes, and you can also apply different effects like strokes, outer strokes, and shadows to your text to make it even better. So for instance, the text there, I can apply a shadow, and I can increase the size, make it more dramatic, and if you get the numbers right here, it actually makes titles look a lot more stand out, and that can be really helpful because just plain text often doesn't stand out enough to be really visible. For instance, if I use white text here, and I have a white background, but I still want white text, adding in a shadow can actually make it visible again. Now, you still probably wouldn't use white text on a white background, but you get the idea. These effects can help you out. Outer stroke is going to be much more dramatic than just a standard shadow, generally, since the outer stroke is going to be 100% opacity and the shadow is going to be half opacity or something like that by default. Of course, you can mess with them. Now, as for shapes, you can use this for highlighting things, and a default shape is going to fill itself in, but you don't necessarily want that, so you can uncheck fill and give it an outer stroke instead of, let's say, a color green. And then you have basically a box that highlights something on your screen, and that can be helpful in certain times if there's something you need to highlight, obviously. So just keep in mind, with the title box, there's a lot more you can do here than just type text onto the screen. You can, it's by the same people who made Photoshop, so you know there's a lot of features. Like, for instance, horizontal centering and vertical centering. That's pretty important. A lot of the times you want things to be centered off, obviously. Okay, I'm not going to rant anymore on titles. You get the idea. It's there, and you should know about it, and you should know about the features that it has. Okay, next up. And this is something I don't think most people are going to know about the first time they run the program. You can use the effect controls over here, which is normally going to show by the audio clip mixer. When you select a clip, you're going to get the video effects over here on the left. And you can actually use this to animate, not only to manipulate the starting size of your clip or the starting position of your clip with respect to the sequence, but you can also animate, and quite easily in here. A lot like Adobe After Effects, though it doesn't have the same rendering. It doesn't take as long to do that. So, for instance, if you want to do animations, you click on toggle animation on each one. So you want to do a scale animation where it gets really big or small over time, hit that. You want it to rotate on the screen, hit rotate. If you want it to change position, hit toggle animation. Now, when you hit that, it'll create a keyframe wherever you have the time selected. But one keyframe does not make an animation. So if you want it to animate over time, what you actually have to do is find another spot and tell it the new position. Where do you want it to end up, or how do you want it to end up? Do you want it to scale to 350% over the course of this 10 seconds? Well, just find the spot and scale it up. It'll automatically create the keyframe over here. Of course, I probably don't want it to be that dramatic, so I'll just delete those keyframes and maybe set it to like 132. Do you want it to rotate 2 times? Well, 2x means rotate twice, a total 360 degrees. And now, if I hit play, it's actually going to rotate and scale upwards over the course of those keyframes. So it's actually very, very simple to do position, scale, and rotation animations inside of Adobe Premiere. Now, if you play around with the video effects, you can do more than that. You can have the color change, the tint change, etc. It's just something you have to play around with and learn over time. But I'm sure you'll get the hang of it now that you know where it's at. So, lastly, before we go, when you are cutting and editing your video, something that you may actually want to do is, instead of selecting the clip that you no longer want and hitting delete on your keyboard, removing it outright, or right-clicking and hitting cut or clear, what you can actually do, let's say you want this clip right here to match up with this clip over here, and you want them to directly transition into each other. Something I didn't understand the first few times I was using Adobe Premiere is ripple delete. What ripple delete does is, as long as you have all the materials for this portion of time selected, you do a ripple delete. It's just going to basically remove this 15 seconds of time from existence. It's just going to go straight from this clip to this clip. It's going to basically squeeze whatever's past this portion I'm removing right next to everything that came before. So I'll show you. Right click, ripple delete, and all of a sudden this clip over here is now all the way over here. It's a bit of a time saver, especially when you're working in Adobe Premiere. You may have to make a lot of cuts all the time. So using ripple delete is actually really helpful. You don't always want to do a ripple delete, but if you do, it's there for you, and it's really good to know about. So I've been Chris, and I hope you found this look at 5 features you need to know about inside of Adobe Premiere to be helpful. If you have any comments or questions about what I talked about, I know I went pretty fast with it today. Feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. And aside from that, I will see you all next time.